family. It's high noon. You're tuned to the State of the City here live on Soul Classics 1590 WFBR. I'm your host, Brother Muhammad. Let me thank all of you at the top of the hour, the top of the show, and the top of the flow for having us locked in and clocked in on those raggedy radios or those ratchety radios. Please do yourselves a favor. Turn them up nice and loud to get you a big fat Thursday, late morning, early afternoon crowd on this Thursday, October the 3rd, 2013, and then go one step further. Call your family, call your friends, call your kit and kin. Call those that have your complexion, those that have your divine connection, and those that want to work to bring about some universal corrections in the city, in the state, in this country, and on the planet. And, of course, you know you have to call the co-workers and the slow workers. Let them know that the State of the City is on the air, and we got a lot we're going to share with you. A special guest joining me on the line in just a few, so let me start the show off as I always do by first and foremost reminding you that we're now streaming live on the World Wide Web, so you can join us at www.1590wfbr.com. And for those of you that would like to join us on our social network media page, you can join us by going to our Twitter page, which is the #1 State of the City, or you can join us by sending me that Facebook request at Darren, D-A-R-E-N, State of the City. Last name is Muhammad, M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D, and you can get in where you fit in and fit in where you get in on the conversation. For those of you that have TuneIn Radio, you can scroll to TuneIn Radio down to WFBR 1590. And last but not least, those that want to cut through the crap, get right down to the yip yap and close the gap, all you have to do is go to our app, which is www.Spreaker, S-P-R-E-A-K-E-R. You can download that app for free and get an opportunity to continue to hear me as we podcast the shows and broadcast the shows on Spreaker. And with that, let me dedicate the show, as I always do, to my brother and friend, Brother Eric Easton. And let me take this opportunity on this day, as I will be joining many, should be, but a few may dare to, stop on this day to celebrate, to elevate, and to educate and commemorate the life, the legacy, the memory of this beautiful mother in the city of Baltimore, who was once referred to as the Mother Teresa of Baltimore. For her legacy was a legacy of serving the poor, serving the voiceless, the choiceless, the despised, the rejected, and the benignly neglected in the city of Baltimore. But she made her transition back on October the 3rd, 2001. I speak now of Mama BEA GADDY, and she helped to make this city, of course, a kinder and gentler city toward the poor and toward the other citizens in the city of Baltimore, black, brown, red, yellow, and white. And so we lift up the name of Mama BEA GADDY, and I encourage many of you and plenty of you to stop and support the BEA GADDY shelter, which is there at 425 North Chester Street. You can call, of course, 410-563-2749 to support the BEA GADDY shelter, as well as, of course, you know, they had their annual Thanksgiving Day dinner, which I know they will be having again this year. But when we look at everything that is happening inside this city and inside of this state, then if there ever was a time that we needed those to, again, imitate the work of Mama BEA GADDY and to pick up on the work of Mama BEA GADDY, now is that time. So again, I encourage many of you and plenty of you to support the BEA GADDY shelter and the BEA GADDY center. And with that, let me go to the line to bring up my guest, who is no stranger to those of you who have been listening to the State of the City. He has continued in the legacy of Mama BEA GADDY in terms of his service as a councilman and as an elected official in the city of Baltimore, serving the citizens in the 12th district, but also serving citizens outside of his district as well, black, brown, red, yellow, and white. So let me take this opportunity to introduce to some and reintroduce to others, and welcome back to the State of the City, 12th District City Councilman Carl Stokes. Good afternoon. Peace be unto you, my brother. How are you?
Good afternoon, Brother Muhammad, and good afternoon to all of the listeners this afternoon. Good to hear from you. Good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. It's good to hear from you and good to talk to you. Can't go any further without first giving out your contact information where you can be reached.
Sure. 410-396-4811. That's the office downtown in City Hall. And the email is Carl, C-A-R-L.Stokes, S-T-O-K-E-S, at BaltimoreCity.gov. I do have a Twitter account. I'm embarrassed to tell you I don't remember the hashtag.
That's quite all right.
And there is a Facebook page, which is Carl Stokes. But I'll get back at some point to give you that hashtag. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember it.
That's quite all right. We'll make sure we give it out to the public. Well, let's get started. Today, I thought we'd stop on this day, as many should do, and remember the legacy and the work of the great B. Gaddy, former city councilwoman B. Gaddy, and known to many as Mama B. Gaddy. Thoughts and comments on the legacy of B. Gaddy here in the city of Baltimore?
Well, B, of course, not only was she a personal friend, but a bit of a mentor, as well as someone that I and others worked closely with. Obviously, she was headquartered in East Baltimore, but she represented and belonged to the entire city and the region.
Yes.
And so B, who at one time was homeless herself, as you know,
yes,
and her family, of course, took it upon herself over the years, even at that time, to always be supportive and help other folk, whether it was asking people to come and to stay with her, to sleep on the couch. She would take in families.
Yes.
She didn't have a formal shelter, didn't have an extra home. She had one home.
Yes, sir.
And people would come and they would get a rest there. They would get food there. And she just had this open house for people who were in need.
Right.
And out of that, it grew into a food pantry. She was able to get some small funds and donations and then some storage space and was able to start a food pantry, which she constantly would make sure that people could come and take what they needed without being greedy. They could come and they could take what they and their family needed, but could not take extras,
right,
or anyway, they would take just enough, and God bless me for that, just so other people could come and also have enough.
Yes,
and that grew, of course, to having people most remember the Thanksgiving dinner, but I want to be clear that that pantry was open 366 days a year. It wasn't just Thanksgiving that B. Gaddy was feeding folk. And then she was able, through the donations of some property, to set up shelters for men and women and families.
That's right.
In need. And
yes,
so I got to say that her daughters continue to do much of the work that B did. They're doing it quietly, but they are continuing the legacy that B started with feeding the pantries and others who are working with the daughters, to continue the legacy of the pantries and the shelters, and of course the annual Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, sir. Again, family, just tuning in, having a conversation with 12th District City Councilman Carl Stokes, talking about, again, Mama B. Gaddy, who died on this day, October the 3rd, 2001. Talk about, if we could, before we transition, Councilman, I think the importance of supporting the B. Gaddy shelter, particularly when we look at the economics in the city and in the state and in this country right now, in which we're seeing more families that are in need. So take the opportunity to impress upon, I think, my listening audience and the citizens in the city of Baltimore, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, of the importance of doing what Mama B. Gaddy did in terms of giving service to her fellow citizens in this city.
Sure. And many of your listeners may know that about 25% of Baltimore City residents and families are living in poverty. That's 25%. We have a greater poverty rate than most any other city, area, region in the entire United States of America.
That's right.
But of that 25% of folks who are living in poverty, clearly a half of that population are children under the age of 18. Who do not have enough to eat in the morning, do not have enough food throughout the day. That not only affects them physically, but also affects them mentally. They're not as prepared to do well in school. Now, oftentimes the food that they do get is unhealthy food. Food. So while you may see a number of young people who are obese, it is not because they're eating well.
Right.
It is actually because they're eating poorly, and the food that they're eating is full of fats and bad stuff for them. So at B's and in other places, they would set aside good food, good healthy food, greens and good produce and fruits, and as well as proper meats that people need to maintain a healthy diet and not only physically but also mentally, because a poor diet affects your mental state, your mental ability to function, your emotional state also.
Yes, sir.
So it's very important that we think of our fellow citizens and contribute in real ways, not lip service,
That's right.
but either take actual product donations
Yes.
or money
That's right.
to the Gaddy Foundation and others. The BEA GADDY Foundation, of course, as I said, stock a pantry every day, 365, 366 days a year. You can go by and pick up canned goods and other items, non-perishable items. And she also runs, her family, in her legacy, runs the shelter. And again, whether you take sheets or blankets or toothpaste, hair products, the baby goods, you need to do that. We need to do that.
That's right.
And we need to think about it all year long, not just at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Obviously, people are in need all year long.
That's right.
And so thank you, Darren, for raising that
Yes, sir.
consciousness today and allowing me to also put in my few words around that.
Well, no, thank you. And again, all of us have I think, a BEA GADDY story to tell and to share. And as I said, to continue her legacy in this city and in this state and in this country, and to do more than just pay lip service, but give hip service. And again, go and visit the Blacks in Wax Museum, where we can find her wax figure.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I think it was the former mayor, Sheila Dixon, that used to bring the wax figure out when she did her monthly food drive during I think, the month of October. And I think we have to kind of rekindle that kind of effort, working with, of course, the family of Mama BEA GADDY. But we'll come back and talk more about how we can do that collectively in the city. But let me transition now and get an update on the Harbor Point project. We remember, of course, the contentious city council hearings. We remember, of course, for the first time in history, there was a city council hearing where the public had an opportunity to speak before all of the experts and all of the developers. And I just want to thank you for the work that you laid down and the example that you laid down around Harbor Point. And just to come on and give an update regularly, but now to give an update on where we are with the Harbor Point project.
Thanks again, Brother Darren. Not much good has come out of this project yet. We did find out that the developer is, buying the bonds himself, $35 million worth of bonds. Although obviously they were crying poor and needed $400 million from the city to support their effort. I had asked, as you know, for some support for the people who live in the Perkins Homes projects and the surrounding communities. I'd asked for support for the City Springs K-8 program that didn't have a play field, and just be supportive of that elementary middle school that is 4 blocks now from Harbor Point.
Yes.
And as I mentioned to you, the developer said he wasn't helping anybody with anything. And I guess he didn't finish the sentence. I guess he meant except himself. I guess he meant to say that.
Yes.
So that didn't happen. I can tell you some good did come, because at City Springs, I'm giving a little bit of a secret. They haven't announced it yet, but the Baltimore Ravens did take note of the fact that the school students did not have a play field, and the Ravens are actually contributing and helping to give them a play field at the City Springs. But only your listeners know that, and please don't say anything else, because it hasn't been formally announced.
Right.
But I know our audience can keep things to themselves until we are ready to let it out.
Sure.
But I'm very disappointed.
Yes, sir.
Very, very, very disappointed that the city has not asked and forced for this $400 million of taxpayer subsidies, that the city did not force a better deal out of this for the citizens of Baltimore City at large, and for the people who are most closely living and going to school in that near community.
Yes.
And so, yes, the young people at the school have been totally ignored in this, in terms of after-school programming or a stronger school community. The good people at Perkins Homes, many of whom obviously are struggling financially, but
That's
who
right.
are willing workers. I want
Yes.
to say that.
That's right.
I grew up in Latrobe housing projects,
That's
and
right.
a whole bunch of my friends
That's right.
came from housing projects or communities right next
Yes.
to them that were low income.
That's right.
We didn't know it at the time, but poor communities.
That's right.
Folk are willing workers there.
Yes.
They're there as they go through a transition in terms of going from low income to better income.
Right.
And so there are folk at Perkins Homes who are ready to go to work.
That's
some
right.
of whom are working now
Yes.
at low-paying jobs.
Right.
And with all of the jobs that are promised
Right.
at this Harbor Point,
Yes.
certainly, there can be a preferential hiring
Right.
for the people who live closest and the people who are most in need of working wage and living wage salaries.
That's right. Yes, sir. That's something, of course, again, talking about Mama BEA GADDY. That was one of the things before she died, that she was fighting for, the living wage. She went and occupied Johns Hopkins, the president's office, with some of the students fighting for that. Talk about whether, as you mentioned, Michael Beatty purchasing the bonds after saying that he didn't have the money to put up for the project, but then to purchase the bonds. Have city lawyers looked at this and questioned whether what he just did was legal or illegal?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know, and so I don't comment too far on this because
Yes, sir.
I don't know all of the legal ramifications. And even though I'm very, very, very much was not supportive of the deal that was
Yes.
struck, I don't like to put
Right.
my mouth in the things
Sure.
that I'm not sure of, and I don't know the
Yes, sir.
legal
Right.
the legalities of that particular transaction. It seems some strange, and people have mentioned to me that it was seemingly a strange sort of insider trading. Well, I don't
that's
know
right.
that.
Yes, sir.
I'm not painting
Yeah.
that
Sure.
picture. I'm not doing that. I'm not.
Right.
I think there's enough stuff in this deal that is shady enough
Yes.
that I don't have to look for things that maybe is not so much. And
Yes, sir.
so, but there are enough things in
Right.
this deal, frankly, that again that are so greased
Right.
and continue to be greased. I was invited over the weekend to meet with some people in Fells Point
Yes.
who are still very much bothered. The deal is over. We lost that part of the battle.
Yeah.
But they still have a war going on, and that they're saying that this is going to leach into the air and into the
Sure.
water.
Right, the environmental
environmental
concerns.
concern,
Yes.
the toxins.
Right,
the
which
toxins.
which very well could be a court case. I've heard again some rumblings and reading, I think, some newspaper articles talking about the issue of the environment based on the land that they're talking about developing or disturbing. That was, I think, a chromium company was actually on that property before. Kind of
Allied Signal
Right.
was there for many years, and like lead paint and asbestos, this was in an era when we weren't paying attention to those health hazards. Now, let me just mention that all these companies that produce leaded gasoline or asbestos, they all knew that what they were producing was a health hazard.
That's right.
But at that time, our federal and state regulators were ignoring this. But
Yes, sir.
now that we know about these issues, take the Harbor Point issue, that land is capped. It was capped for a reason. It was capped, which means they cemented
That's right.
the topsoil. They cemented over the top of that most of that land to try to, and then they built barriers around it in the water to try to keep that chromium from leaking into the air or into the water.
Into the water around the harbor.
And so. And there was a project that would have less density than they're talking about now. It was pretty much going to be an open space apart on that space, a lacrosse field they talked about. And there's some part of the space, like there's a building on that site now. I can't think of the name of the building. But anyway, it's a financial company that's on the building, on the grounds now. I'll think of it in a moment.
Yeah, it's not.
And that part of the ground was not a part of the chromium plant. So that part of the ground, when people say, well, we already built on it, well, they're being disingenuous. Because the part where there is a building right now was not a part of the chromium plant.
Yes,
the
sir.
part that they're now going to break ground on for the Exelon building and apartments, etc., was and is a brownfield site full of toxins that cause cancer beneath that part of the ground.
Right.
And they're going to drill into the ground and make up to 1,500 holes in the ground.
Yes, sir.
1,500 holes. And I know from my little bit of physics, I did physics in high school. I won't comment on what my grade was.
Yes,
but my physics in school say if you're going to drill a hole, that the only way you get a hole is something has to come up out of where the hole was.
That's
something has to be displaced. And so when they start drilling into the ground, what is in the ground will come up out of the ground into the air, or it will go sideways out of the side of the ground into the water, because there is water surrounding the site on three sides.
Yes.
And so there is hard ground about 8 feet down, hard rock, actually.
Yes.
When they start drilling, either the toxins are going to come up out of the ground into the air, or when they hit that rock, it's going to be resistance, and the dirt and the chromium is going to shoot out to the side and into the bay.
Right.
And either way, these toxins are going to cause environmental damage.
Yes, sir. Again, family, just tuning in, having a conversation with Councilman Carl Stokes. Got to ask, I know there's supposed to be forums taking place where the public could come out and ask questions. I only saw recently where I think they had one forum. To your knowledge, do you know if they've had any other forums since then for the public?
I think they just had the one planned open to conversation forum, and understand that this forum is being run by the development company.
Developers. So it could be one of the best kept secrets in Baltimore.
So everybody coming are the people who are already saying, "Oh, this is a wonderful, safe environment." Right?
Yeah.
There is a rough group of leaders. I think it's headed by a gentleman named Stelios Spiriadis. Mr. Spiriadis owns the Black Olive restaurant on Caroline Street down in Fells Point. Wonderful restaurant.
Okay.
And I believe I know that he and a group of Fells Point residents, and so these are not people who are from somewhere else, but residents of the community and business people in the community are meeting now and are planning actions around this whole issue. So you should be hearing more and more from them. And Brother Darren, maybe after I get off the air, I'll text you back a phone number. You may want to reach out to Mr. Spiliadis and ask them, exactly what they are doing.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Before we let you go, got to ask your thoughts and comments coming around this issue of policing. When one of your former colleagues was in the council, 7th District Councilwoman Belinda Conaway, who's not gone away, but is still here and running for Register of Wills, of course. But when she was on the council, she talked about and was introducing legislation. I remember the hearing she had and came down with Dr. Powers to testify around cameras in police cars. And I'm starting to hear some retired and former police officers who didn't support Councilwoman Belinda Conaway, didn't support the message nor the messenger around the issue of cameras in the police cars. And I bring that up after the death, unfortunately, of Miss Angel Chawinga last week, and the two other so-called suspects that the police were chasing with this high-speed chase, which, of course, following the death of Mr. Herzl in front of City Hall, I would have thought the mayor would have sent down a decree, as she did regarding stopping Hispanic, those of Hispanic origin, asking about their citizenship status, that there would be a decree that would have come down to say that we do not participate. And this high-speed chase is not a policy inside of the Baltimore City Police Department. But thoughts and comments, one, on the cameras, and then two, on the high-speed chases in Baltimore City by Baltimore City police officers and rent-a-cars.
Right. Well, first, I believe that every police car should have a camera, and it should be on and in use anytime the officer is in the car and is on active duty and in patrol or otherwise.
Yes, sir.
I was noticing the other day that there was this horrible, I don't know if you call it chase. It wasn't police. It was motorcyclists and a private vehicle.
Right. Yes.
And apparently one of the cyclists had what they call a helmet cam.
Yes.
And he videoed 6 minutes of this really crazy high-speed encounter between the cyclist and the police, and so you got to see this whole thing from start to finish, and you can make some judgments about who did what.
Right.
But in this case, I'm saying the city police cars should all have cameras in them, and they should be on.
That's right.
Every time the engine is on.
Yes.
And so when the car not just when the engine is on, even if there's a stop, the camera should continue to roll.
That's right.
So that we do have video evidence
Yes.
of what is going on. I think it's very important that we're very transparent in this matter all the time. You still don't know what happened in this case.
Yes.
And it goes weeks and weeks and months
Mm-hmm.
before we get. There's no reason in my mind other than I understand the criminal liability of maybe the officers or others, but there's no reason not to tell the public what happened.
That's right.
In this matter immediately.
That's right.
And,
Yes.
and certainly the family is concerned, but even the greater public needs to know whether we're following procedure, whether we're following the rules. We should be having that full explanation and conversation in the public. And so we should have police cameras being used. It protects the citizens and the police. It protects both.
That's right.
Because there are times when the police are doing something they shouldn't be doing, and we can't get a straight answer. And frankly, Brother Darren, not so much. But there are times when a citizen says that a police did something and did not do it.
Yeah, we want to protect the good officers, and of course, then we want to, again, expose the bad officers. It's what we want to do. So it's important, and it wouldn't cost a lot in terms of putting those cameras in the police cars. If they got the money to go out and rent some cars, which is a whole nother conversation, which is much money as the citizens give to to that particular department, more so than any other department in the city. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, we give by far the greatest percentage of our budget is in policing, and obviously it is. If you measure return on the dollar, we probably get less return on our dollar from the police department than we get from any other division in the city. Right. If we were to give the same amount of money to public education and after-school programs and recreation centers, we would see an enormous difference in violence reduction and other activities, social ills that are in the street, not just crime related, but also just social services. If we were to put our money into a positive intervention and prevention, we would take care of people in need. We would see a great deal of difference. Giving so much of our dollars to policing, in order to keep getting money, they've got to justify by making more arrests, right?
That's right.
By locking up more people. They have to justify getting those amounts of dollars.
That's right.
And just as our prison system, which is a total mess in the state of Maryland. And we still have a guy who should have been fired months ago. Getting the system. And when people can go to jail and still run their criminal enterprise on the street from the jail, and that still goes on right now. And when you've got so many correctional officers who are part of the problem, that the good correctional officers, who are by far the majority, their hands are tied. Their hands are tied. Because they can say to people, this is what you're going to do, and these are the rules, and then their buddies will undercut them. So, we've got some major law enforcement issues in this town, in this state. And we can't justify the amount of dollars that we're putting them in, we're putting into them by the results that we're getting.
That's right. And lastly, before we let you go, this year, September the 20th, passed some of us by, and we didn't stop to, I think, commemorate the life of your colleague and your brother in the council, former city councilman, Councilman Ken Harris. So thoughts and comments on that brother, of course.
Yeah, he was a great brother. We did have a moment of silence and remembrance in city council on that particular week for Brother Ken. And I still remember, as many people will, where we were when we heard about that. I remember getting a
call in the early morning from actually someone in the media.
Yes, sir.
That they said, Ken Harris is gone.
Right.
And, it didn't register to me what he was saying when he said that to me.
That's right.
I had no idea when he said he's gone. I mean, I just didn't think death.
Right.
That's
Yes,
what
sir.
I didn't think.
Right.
That's what I didn't think because, Ken and I and others were close, same barber,
That's right.
families know each other, etc. And you just don't expect to get a call at any time, day, night, morning, and hear when someone say that someone that you've been with, many, many times in the last few days,
That's right.
let alone years,
Yes.
that not only is he dead,
Right.
but he's just violently killed,
That's right.
murdered.
Yes, sir.
And you just can't put that together. But God bless him and his family. His family is moving on. His daughter's in law school. His son, I'm not sure. I think he's finishing up at the University of Maryland.
Right.
And I think he also may have law in mind. So God bless the family, and they are still keeping themselves together.
Yes, sir.
But certainly they miss their father, their son, their brother, their husband, so it is very special for you to bring up our soldiers,
we have
Brother
to.
Darren. I know
That's
you
right.
always do, and God bless you for
Yes, sir.
bringing up both Ken this morning as well as Mama B. Gaddy,
Yes, sir.
and remembering the soldiers. And a reminder to us
That's right.
that we have to stay strong and be soldiers
Yes, sir.
right now,
Right.
because that battle that we've been fighting and that they fought, many of those battles are still before us, and we
right.
just can't let down on those.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, let me just say thank you for taking time out of your
Thank
busy
you.
schedule and joining me, and thank your fine staff, of course, for just always keeping us connected so that we can have these conversations with, again, 12th District Councilman Ken Harris. Look, I'm going to say Ken Harris and Councilman Carl Stokes, all right?
That's all right. God bless you, and we'll be seeing each other as we
All
always
right.
do soon. I know we'll probably meet up soon in one of our favorite eateries.
Yes, sir. Terra
and,
Cafe, of course.
and break
25th
bread.
in St. Paul. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank-
Love you now.
Thank you. God bless.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Again, family, just tuning in, just concluded conversation with 12th District City Councilman Carl Stokes. Let me go to this quick musical break. Gonna bring it back in, open up the lines, take your thoughts, questions, comments, if you have a thought on Mama B. Gaddy today. Of course, I know it's still the third day of the shutdown. And I'll perhaps get into some of that tomorrow because you'll be appalled when I share with you some of these stories and news articles that were in the Chicago Tribune. Not a surprise to some of us, and in the Boston Globe, talking about how while you're home, your pain has become the Democrats and the Republicans and the president's financial gain, that they're down there having fundraisers. They're down there having fundraisers and raising funds off of your pain being shut down as a federal worker. But I know you don't believe me, so I'll have to read the article to show you. They're down there making a gain off of your pain, just as Wall Street did, by making a gain off of your pain regarding your homes, and again, showing you that crime pays, and you got a bunch of smooth criminals that are operating in Washington, D.C. But we'll go this quick musical break. Open up the lines if you have a thought on Mama B. Gaddy on this day. If you want to get in on the conversation, 410-761-1592. So let me go this quick musical break, and then we'll come back in with more of the State of the City. Welcome back. You're listening to the State of the City. And again, I'm your host, Brother Muhammad. Let me thank 12th District City Councilman Carl Stokes for joining me on the show. I know normally we have Comptroller Peter Franchos the first Thursday. I'm going to try to see if we can schedule him for next Thursday, just due to some scheduling conflicts. But it's all right. We're going to continue to give you that information and inspiration as we do here on the State of the City. And as I brought up, of course, as I've been hearing, some retired police officers, the Jakes and the Fakes and the Snakes, talking now about cameras in the police cars when it was City Councilwoman Belinda Conaway. I was there at the hearing, who introduced the legislation. And these retired officers didn't come and support the message nor the messenger. In fact, spoke out against her and worked against Belinda Conaway. And now that she's gone away, they think some of us got amnegronesia and we don't remember. And we don't remember that it was Belinda Conaway that introduced the legislation and held hearings, that myself and Dr. Powers and a few others came down to testify regarding cameras in police cars. So again, we're going to always tell the truth and shame the devils, whether they white devils, black devils, brown devils, red devils, any other color devils. But again, you're tuned to the State of the City. And since my lines are clear, don't have no lines, I guess maybe this city and this town have forgotten Mama B. Gaddy. So it lets you see, man, those that'll talk B. Gaddy but won't walk B. Gaddy. Those might talk Ken Harris but won't walk Ken Harris. So they clearly would like you to forget a legacy of Mama B. Gaddy, but yet they'll go and have a moment of silence for somebody who's never done anything for them. Perhaps a baseball player, some of these Ravens players, and some others, that they'll have a moment of silence for them, but won't have a moment of silence nor to call, to testify regarding the legacy of Mama B. Gaddy. So we'll continue the State of the City and won't open the line since we gave you an opportunity to get on the line to pay homage and respect to Mama B. Gaddy, and not one phone call. Now, I know if I was talking about the game tonight, I know if I was talking about the game this weekend, I know if I was talking about if the Ravens was going to cut Brian McKinney, if the Ravens was going to cut Jacoby Jones, then I know my lines would be blowing up. But we're talking about a beautiful black woman. And again, Mama B. Gaddy, and lines weren't blowing up. Isn't that interesting? So it lets you see, again, those who say that they protecting our legacy, but they're not protecting our legacy nor respecting our legacy, but continue to neglect our legacy right now. So again, you tune to the State of the City. Let me move on with the show. Let me move on with the show in the flow as we're talking about now what's going on in Washington, D.C. What is going on the third day of the federal shutdown of the federal workers right now, and at a time that your Congress, your president, along with your members of the Senate, have federal workers sitting home idle, at a time that they're fitting and getting ready to go into your kitty, getting ready to go into your nest egg, getting ready to go into your rainy day fund regarding, again, tapping into the federal employment retirement system and your pension money. Your pension money is what they're getting ready to dip into. So we're at a very dangerous time in this country right now and moving more toward a danger zone. And many are caught up in the distractions, caught up in, of course, being reduced to fractions and factions. And some of you got a political fatal attraction, if I can keep it real. You got a political fatal attraction toward that man in the White House, which you think that he can't do no wrong, and the Republicans and the Tea Party and others can't do no right, when most of them are down there playing a giant con game on you. They're playing a giant con game on you, working with Wall Street to destroy y'all street, if I can keep it real. But again, as we're looking at this, as I said before, that many of the vultures, many of the economic hitmen, many of the devils and birds of prey, like the hyenas, the jackals, and the hawks, maybe some ravens, have descended on Washington, D.C., and clearly what they're looking for is blood and looking for is money. So they clearly now are moving to shut this country down. But before they shut this country down, they're going to scuttle your Social Security and scuttle your Medicare. And your president has offered it up and put it on the table with his austerity and debt commission that he signed into executive order and brought them into existence. And if you don't believe me, pick up today's Chicago Tribune which they talk about the debt ceiling showdown that's coming on the 17th, and how already now your president and the Republicans, along with the Democrats, are talking about cutting Medicare and using that money in Medicare and your Social Security. And at the same time, as I said before, while you sitting home crying, they sitting home or sitting down there in Washington, D.C., acting for the most part. And again, when I say acting, as I said before, in today's Boston, I think it's the Boston Globe, talking about how the Democrats and the Republicans have used this to raise money around the country right now. And again, I'll give you the headline. You can go and pull it up. I'm not going to keep reading it to you. Either you want to know what's going on or you don't want to know what's going on. Either you want to know what's going on or you don't want to know what's going on. Maybe you just want to bury your head in the sand and pretend like that this system is not coming down all around you right now. And it's clear to me now that this is not just directed to the federal workers, but it's directed toward China. And that's why your president is not going to the real APAC meeting. The real APAC, not the American Israeli Political Affairs Committee, but the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference that is coming up starting tomorrow. That's the reason why he's not going, because there's going to be a showdown with China regarding the so-called Trans-Pacific Free Trade Agreement. And there's no such thing as a free trade agreement. So they clearly are trying to outflank and outrank China when China owes more, or China owns more of the American debt. And so President Barack Obama needs China right now. He needs China to extend America a line of credit. He needs Russia to extend America a line of credit. China has the military might. China has the people. China has the knowledge. China has the wisdom. China has the people power. But America is not looking to do this right now because of those that control President Obama want war with China, and they want war with Russia and war with India if they can. But yet nobody's standing up to tell the American people, you better look at the bigger picture of what's going on. It's not directed just at you. It's directed at China. And so that's why he canceled his trip. He was supposed to be going to, of course, Asia. But he's canceled the trip to Asia. I think he's supposed to be going to 4 countries. And now he's only going to 2 countries. I believe he was supposed to have been going to the Philippines and Malaysia, along with Indonesia, and I believe there's one more. But apparently he's not going. And as I said before, this clearly is directed at China. But if he was wise, he would sit down with China. He would sit down with Russian President Vladimir Putin and ask for a line of credit and then abolish the Federal Reserve. That's what I said. Abolish the Federal Reserve through executive order, as John F. Kennedy attempted to do with Executive Order 1110. He would abolish the Federal Reserve. Now, that might cost him his life, but the country would be free. The country would be free. And you're sworn, those of you in the military, you're sworn to protect this country from enemies at home and abroad. Well, the enemies you're fighting are the international bankers. The enemies that you're fighting are the international bankers right now. So this is where this country has moved. This is where this country has drifted. And the atmosphere is staged and is more dangerous and more deadly than any gangster movie, any thriller movie, any killer movie, any suspense, any whodunit, Ocean 11, Ocean 12, Ocean 13, Mission Impossible, or a Tom Clancy novel. And one day I'll come back and talk about Tom Clancy, tied heavily to CIA, military intelligence, and of course, one of the producers of the violent video games. Those of you that run around talking about that Jesuit Tom Clancy, the violent video game called Red Storm started from Tom Clancy. I think he's a relative of Colin Powell. I have to look into that now. I think he's a distant relative of Colin Powell. But again, as I said before, that this country has drifted to a point where there's no return. And you heard an elder like Baba Dick Gregory warning you of, unfortunately, where America has drifted. But here's the headline again. Government shutdown, White House meeting ends with no sign of breakthrough. This is in the Chicago Tribune. And if I don't get into it today, I'll come back over the next couple of days and get into it. Here's another one from the Boston Globe. Fiscal crisis or fundraising opportunity. Politicians use shutdown threat to fatten their coffers, man. So I'm not going to go into the article, but just showing you This is the Boston Globe. So I don't want some of you say, Brother Muhammad, you got that. You just that's a conspiracy theory. But tells you how the president been down there making phone calls to raise money for them, along with Nancy Pelosi, along with Reid and the others down there making a fat killing or a fat gain off the people's pain right now, man. They're making a fat gain off the people pain right now. Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame in terms of they're using your hurt and your pain to make a fat gain for themselves? But again, I guess it kind of go back to that old song by Betty, I think it was Betty Wright. No pain, no gain. So no pain, no gain, or it could be your pain, their gain is clearly what we're looking at in terms of what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now while the American people are asleep. But if you read this article in the Chicago Tribune, it will go down probably toward the latter pages of the article, and it tells you that they are talking with Wall Street. Wall Street is coming into the meetings with politicians and saying to them that now you got to offer up Medicare, now you got to offer up Social Security. So you'll be caught up in the distractions, the factions, the fractions, and your political fatal attraction. But we don't see no action in terms of, again, those who should be calling for a boycott of this country right now, to shut this economy down. And as I said before, the people are supposed to shut the government down, not the government shutting the people down. And at a time when they got you reduced to talking about whether it's about the Affordable Health Care Act or not, and the best affordable health care you can give the men and women in this country, according to the Constitution, that you have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the best you can give them is a job, a J-O-B. Pardon me. But if you got 90 million people unemployed right now, I didn't say 9 million. I said 90 million, 90, in a country of over 350 million or 60 million. You have 90 million people unemployed right now. But yet they're going to say you can get free health care. You need a free job. You don't need a free phone. You need a free home, and you need a free job. But if you don't see them talking about jobs, just the mere fact they're talking about a free trade agreement with countries in Asia lets you know they're taking more jobs overseas. And those jobs are not coming back. So as one of my callers always says, there will be no more cotton for you to pick. There will be a whole lot of no more you know what to pick as well. But clearly we see that they're systematically shutting this country down all around you, closing the doors all around you, closing the stores all around you, closing up schools all around you, closing up institutions and manufacturing plants all around you, and going overseas where they can get cheaper labor in foreign lands. But this is what Dr. King warned you about, that America, again, capitalists would be investing huge sums of money in Asia, Africa, and South America, only to take out the immense profits with no concern for the betterment of the country. And this is what we're looking at right now. But again, your mainstream news media is not going to tell you that while you're being idle, they give new meaning to American Idol. What's 800,000 furloughed federal workers, as I heard somebody say? American Idol. That's what it is, American Idol. So you're American Idol right now. And while you're idle, they're down there making money off your pain by calling corporations who, as we speak, before they pass this budget and cut this deal, they're down there cutting backroom deals to get perks for their corporations, whether it be from the coal industry, whether it be from the oil industry, whether it be from those who are trying to push the Keystone Pipeline. All of this is in the deal that's coming down the pipeline on the American people. They got you thinking that it's about Obamacare. They got you really thinking that it's about the Affordable Health Care Act. And as I said before, if it was really affordable, then there would be no exemptions for over 1,200 companies and unions. And you would think that you would have those that would challenge it in court to say you can't have one healthcare system for one group and not the same for others. And you can't give this group an exemption and don't give others an exemption based on, again, equality, based on, again, the Constitution of the United States of America. But they don't teach constitutional law and Constitution in the schools anymore in the city of Baltimore and around the country right now. So most of the American people, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, do not know. the Constitution. They don't know the Bill of Rights. They don't know their own First Amendment all the way down to the other amendments as well, because it's not being taught, and there's no wash, rinsing, and repeating so that you understand it, tying it to the facts and the acts. You're not getting that because you got the Common Core curriculum now, whatever the hell that is, being taught in the public school system. The Common Core curriculum's being taught in the Baltimore City public school system and around the country right now, which just means, in the words of Lupe Fiasco, dumb them down. Dumb them down is what they want right now. Dumb them down. But don't give them anything that's going to enlighten them. Don't give them anything that's going to allow them to become full participants in this society and understand that their accountability becomes our responsibility, and our responsibility becomes their accountability in terms of the elected official, or those who say they are elected officials who are supposed to be serving all of the people. But they clearly are serving the 1% or the 10% who are sucking the blood of the American people right now, black, brown, red, yellow, and white. And you'll soon see, again, as I said, a run on the banks. You'll soon see some of your banks close. And, of course, you'll know why now that they're talking about an October surprise. You'll soon begin to understand why they ordered 6 million rounds of ammunition and all this heavy military equipment to the Department of Homeland Security, because they know that the people are going to rise up against the injustices. And you won't be able to take but so much in terms of the injustices that are taking place. And I'm not talking about some of you, again, that want to reduce this to a football game or reduce this to the Democrats versus the Republicans. The whites just don't like Obama. Obama's getting paid, man, while you being played, if you haven't figured it out by now. That Obama the charmer is getting paid. But they depended on your little petty nationalism, your primitive tribalism, that you're ready to go fight some whites because you think they don't like Obama. This is how the news media is manipulating you. And he's down there working with blacks, working with whites, working with Asians, working with straight, working with gay, tricking the American people right now. And you ain't got enough intelligence. You don't have enough will and enough skill to see when they're playing a giant con game on you right now. When they can sit down and fund everybody overseas. Israel's still getting their money. Israel is still getting their money, but you shut off. The Taliban's still getting their money, but you shut off. Al-Qaeda's still getting their money, but you shut off. You 90 million unemployed, 800,000. That's an army of people sitting home idled right now. But your union reps aren't talking about a boycott. Your union reps aren't talking about let's march and shut Washington, D.C. down. What are they doing? So you have to begin to ask the question, you know, what price have they gotten, or what have they sold in terms of your union reps? They're not willing to stand up for the American people right now, who you pay union dues to. That's the other interesting part. You elect the elected officials, then you pay union dues to the union heads, and the union heads aren't looking out for the rest of the body. So what good is it for you to pay these union dues if at a time when you need the unions to step up, they are silent. They are silent, and they're missing in action right now as far as stepping up for the American people who pay union dues to them. So kind of lets you see, man, you got a lot of prostitutes down there in Washington, D.C., disguising themselves as legitimate elected officials, but we got a lot of prostitutes operating in Washington, D.C. in shirts and skirts. And at a time when the American people, again, as I said before, are hurting, and they should be standing up and delivering for the people, they refuse to stand up and deliver for the people right now. So we'll get into that and much more tomorrow. We're going to wrap up, get up out of here, make way for the programs coming behind us. As I said before, when we open up the lines tomorrow, hopefully you call in and join us, as we were dedicating the show to Mama BEA GADDY. But as I said, I'm sure that as many of the people have been dumbed down, then this is not the kind of radio that many of you want to hear. And I'd say, listen to the other shows, listen to the other stations, because that's what you want. You just want something that's going to titillate you. You want something that's just going to excite you, maybe give you a little stimulation. Go like your shot of Viagra, or your shot of Cialis, or your shot of Extends for some of you brothers, and for some of you sisters perhaps. But I'm not that. I am not that. And I don't have a cut card. If the president's right, I'll say he's right. If the Senate is right, I'll tell you they're right. If the Congress is standing strong, I'm going to tell you they're standing strong. But right now, none of them are standing strong. None of them are standing strong for the American people against the wiles of Satan and the wiles of Wall Street and the international bankers in the Federal Reserve. They're not standing strong right now. And you may have one or two, and I'll save those names. I'll save those names because some of you wouldn't be able to handle the names and what I'm going to talk about in terms of what they have been attempting to do in terms of standing up for the American people, black, brown, red, yellow, and white. So we're going to wrap up, get up out of here, make room for the program that's coming behind us. If you want to get a copy of the show, of course, we're going to podcast it on Spreaker, on Twitter, and on our Facebook page. But let me quickly thank my sponsors as I'm wrapping up. Let me thank Terra Cafe right there at 25th and St. Paul. Stop in, get you some lunch, get you some brunch. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the brothers at Charm City Chicken and Waffle Restaurant, located at 807 Washington Boulevard. Stop in, get you some lunch, get you some brunch. They're open Sunday through Saturday at 10 a.m. And let me thank PM Diversified Tax Services. No show is complete without, of course, thanking them. And they can be reached at 410-367-5615. And let me thank the Black Man and Woman's Country Club. Got to thank Park Heights Barbershop, the brothers down in the mall at Flair Hair, and the brothers at Johnny's G-Styles Barbershop and G-Styles Boutique right there off of Monument Street on Duncan Street. Shout out to my brother Calvin, who I was honored to sit down and break bread and have a meal with yesterday at Terra Cafe. So again, we do need your support to come longer and stronger. So please make your checks, money orders payable to WFBR. WFBR, do a righteous drive-by and drop it off. The Terra Cafe right there at 25th and St. Paul is my brother Yellow Jesus, and others who are going to be joining me in a few days on the State of the City have done and will do. And we're going to have those artists joining us soon and very soon over the next couple of days on the State of the City. So again, I've been your host, Brother Muhammad. We'll podcast the show on the Twitter page, Facebook page, and Spreaker page. But again, I warn you, be watchful, be mindful where you go, and stay out of those stadiums. And again, do not leave your money in one bank. You better diversify your portfolio. When, as the old folks say, do not put all your eggs in one basket when you're looking at the collapse of the last vestiges of the Roman Empire, the American government right now. And so, again, we'll be back here tomorrow at 12 noon. Until then, God bless, all the best, and the rest of you and yours. And let me give a shout out to my brother out there that listens to the State of the City, Brother Red Top. Tell them don't stop listening to the State of the City, but make sure you put your money where your heart is and send in your donations, man. Don't be no perpetrator. But with that, we're getting up out of here, and we'll be back here tomorrow at 12 noon. Stay tuned for more great radio here on Soul Classics 1590 WFBR. And we say here, people make the world go round. Of course, them thugs on Wall Street say the gangsters make the world go round. So until tomorrow at 12 noon, God bless, all the best, and the rest to you and yours. Peace.